Star Wars growing up had a big impact on me, and I always thought that I wanted to be a Jedi.
That's so
and
funny.
and I also thought the Force is real, there must be something bigger out there, like the Force that, surrounds us and binds the galaxy together.
This is episode 15 of the Successful Vaishnavas podcast with Gitavali Devi Dasi, the creator of the Rise Up Your Life Bhakti Journal.
Whatever little service that anyone can do for Krishna is to be appreciated and celebrated.
Just give this life to Krishna.
We know that they have much more potential than they're presently using.
I went to a place of relishing the activity and letting go of the result completely.
You just associate with pure devotees. Then you shall be able to cross over the ocean of nescience.
Hare Krishna, this is Krishna Das, founder of Successful Vaishnavas and risen from the dead. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast since the end of 2013. So that's more than, 14, 15, 16, 17, more than 4 years since I did the last episode. So yes, I'm back. It's I was thinking that it's kind of appropriate at the moment that we're reawakening the podcast because it's Easter coming up. So Easter's the pagan festival of new life. So that's the case for me, and of course for Christians it's celebration of Jesus rising up from the dead. And we've actually got this episode is named Rise Up because we're interviewing Gitavali Devi Dasi, who's created a journal, and the title of the journal is Rise Up Your Bhakti Life Journal. So this is the theme of this episode, is rising up. It's a wonderful interview, and I think if you have a chance, grab her journal and you might find it really useful. Just to give you a quick catch up since our last episode, in general, from the Successful Vaishnavas point of view, since the last episode I did a survey of the devotees about what were their biggest challenges, and that was really interesting. It brought out sort of 4 main areas that devotees were having challenges in. One was in sadhana, and basically following the regulative principles, the basic practices of spiritual life. The other one was the challenge of earning a living. The next one was to do with relationships and community. And then finally, how to feel inspired and use your inspiration and your talents in a way that serves Krishna, and also hopefully you can make a living from. So these were the sort of big things that I picked out from our survey. And then after doing that survey, I actually created a small course called the Japa Jumpstart. In total, it's about an hour of video, but it's very condensed, very practical strategies that can help you to get your 16 rounds done every day, basically. It's like a time management course. But it also goes beyond that and looks at the mindset with which we do our japa. Because we know in Krishna consciousness that the 3 modes of nature are an important framework that help us to analyze at what level we are practicing our devotional service, or actually anything that we do. So that's also included in that course. And what it is it's using the Mayapur success framework, which, if you don't know about that, you can go to my website, successfulvaishnavas.com, and there'll be a link where you can learn about the Mayapur success formula. So this Japa Jumpstart was taking that formula and applying it specifically to the challenge of how can I get my rounds done when my life is so busy and crazy, essentially, and how can I keep advancing in Krishna consciousness even when life is very challenging and time is short, apparently. So that was one of the things that I did. And then after that, I spent a lot of time working with Jai Srila Prabhu. First of all, we were working on a course called Nurturing Krishna's Children, which is a parenting course. And then what grew out of that particular course became the Relationship Rescue Remedy, because a lot of the devotees that came to the parenting courses were saying, well, do you have something about relationships that can help husbands and wives? And the same principle, it was an expansion of the principle of nurturing that was taught in Nurturing Krishna's Children, and trying to see the good and to fan the spark of the good things. It expanded into this Relationship Rescue Remedy. There's a very interesting story about how that was all created. Basically, Jai Sheela and Vimala Manaji, they were in a bit of a conflict as they were writing their book on Successful Grihastha Life. Kind of ironic. But through the process of working through that conflict, they realized that there's actually some steps that, if we follow them, can help us to resolve conflict very quickly, and also help to minimize the amount of conflict we have to face in our life. So that was a really interesting project, and I put a lot of time and effort into that. And because I was putting a lot of effort into that, that was one of the reasons why I put less into Successful Vaishnavas. But now I'm feeling really inspired that I want to continue with Successful Vaishnavas. Ideally, I'd like to do an episode a week. Let's see how we go. I've already got, as well as this episode, I've got another 4 interviews that I've already recorded that I just need to package up and post. If you know anybody that's you think would be good to interview, please let me know, and if possible, put me in touch with that person, because I'd really like to highlight the successful devotees in our society, or devotees who are working to address the important issues that devotees are facing, or anybody who's just an interesting interview that might inspire us in our Krishna consciousness. If you know somebody like that, please email me at krishnendu@successfulvaishnavas.com. The spelling of that you can find on successfulvaishnavas.com website. It's KRSNENDU@successfulvaishnavas.com. So that's without any H's in Krishnendu, and there's no H in Vaishnavas either. Maybe I'll need to find a shorter email address to make it easier. Anyway, that's something for the future. But I'm really looking forward to doing interviews. If you yourself would like to be on the podcast and be featured, if you've got something that you'd like to share with the devotee community that you think would be value, please email me at krishnendu@successfulvaishnavas.com, and I'll be very happy to have you on the show. So so that was a big project which is still continuing on. Jai Sheela Prabhu and Vimala Manaji have written a book called Relationship Rescue Remedy.com, and they also have an online course for those that want to put it into more practice, go deeper and really develop their relationships in a deep way. So in addition to that, last year I started to do a bunch of Facebook Lives. I think it went for almost a month. I did a Facebook Live every day, and I found that was quite inspiring. And at the end of that, I opened up the membership to the Empower and Preach membership community, which it's closed at the moment. We only open up membership to that every so often so that we can serve the members that are already there. So we have a small group of people in the membership at the moment, and I will be looking to open that up again in future. If you're interested in it and want to know more about it, you can also email me about that. And that's really the area that I want to be focusing on from now on, is basically the podcast, as well as doing some Facebook Lives, offering a lot of hopefully value to people, devotee community, through the podcast and Facebook Live for free. And then also having this membership site where devotees can get together and support each other to go deeper in their Krishna consciousness, and also work together to develop strategies and help each other to implement strategies for preaching Krishna consciousness in a way that's effective, and using the tools that are available to us in this modern world. As well as working with Jai Srila Prabhu, I also bought a business from another devotee, which was a website design and online marketing business. So through that business, I developed a lot of skills in online marketing, and my motivation all along was that I want to use these skills to spread Krishna consciousness and help other devotees to use these strategies to promote their own businesses, and also help other devotees to preach Krishna consciousness with these tools. So if you're interested in developing a business, specifically I'm interested in two key areas. One is direct preaching programs, helping to promote those, and also I'm interested in helping devotees like Jai Srila Prabhu would be a good example, and Vimala Mataji. If you've got some kind of knowledge that's valuable to people, that's connected to Krishna consciousness, then I'd really like to help you to promote your business. So like with Jai Srila Prabhu and Vimala, they've got relationship knowledge and wisdom that they're sharing with the devotee community, first of all. So in that way it's service to Vaishnavas. And also we're just about to launch the same teachings to a broader audience. So it's a way of connecting with people who are not yet devotees and linking them up with the wisdom from Srila Prabhupada, and hopefully bring a few of those people closer to Krishna and turn them into devotees, right? As well as that, to it's a way that we can have a business which is really serving people in a way that's connecting them with Krishna, as well as making a living out of it. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, again, email me at krishnendu@successfulvaishnavas.com, and and we can discuss how I might be able to help you, with the skills that I've got, whether that's in the form of coaching, where you do most of the work, or whether it's in the form of done-for-you services, where I can do some of the heavy lifting for you, so you can focus more on what you want to teach and how you want to serve other people. So yeah, these are the services that I'm offering at the moment. Basically, the membership site, where we help devotees to become more Krishna conscious and spread Krishna consciousness, and then also offering services to help devotees to promote their businesses in a way that's related to Krishna consciousness, as well as giving away a lot of free information and knowledge through the podcast and Facebook Lives. So that gives you a quick summary of what I've been up to and where I'm up to right now. Ideally I'd like to spend all my time working with devotees and promoting Krishna conscious projects and helping devotees to develop businesses that are also connected to Krishna. So with that, I think it's time for us to hear the interview for today with Gitavali Devi Dasi. She's a very inspiring devotee, and it's amazing, how she got an idea and very quickly she acted on it. She went from an idea to a published book within 2 weeks. That's just insane. So, we can definitely learn a few things from her. And she's got this journal that she's created, which is a very useful tool to help us to be more effective. So my son is just about to come and talk to me, so I'll sign off here. And I'll just sign off here. I'll let my son say Hare Krishna. Everybody.
Hare Krishna.
And I'll pick up my kids. We're just about to head to the Sacred Sounds Festival this evening. We're flying over to the Gold Coast, so I look forward to reporting on that. For now, here's Gitavali Devi Dasi telling us about her Rise Up Your Bhakti Life journal and teaching us some tricks or some strategies to be more effective. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, this is Krishna Das back again with a special interview here for Successful Vaishnavas podcast. And today I've got Gitavali Devi Dasi, who's a famous devotee here in New Zealand, although she's originally from Canada. And she's created this amazing journal called the Rise Up Bhakti Life Journal. So that's what I'm going to be talking to her about today, about the journal that she's created, as well as some of the ideas behind it and how those ideas can help you in your Krishna consciousness. So, welcome Gitavali. Thanks for coming and agreeing to submit yourself to an interview.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to share whatever I have to share.
Yeah, it's great having you here. First of all, could you just give us a little bit of background, like, where you're from and how you became a devotee and got into Krishna consciousness?
Sure. It's a long story, but I'll try to keep it brief. So I'm from Canada, from a small town about an hour away from Montreal, and I grew up in a French-Canadian family. We'd go to church. So I kind of had a notion of God, but not really much. It wasn't very an enthusiastic event going to church. It was, kind of a
bit of a chore.
Bit of a chore, yeah, a duty. It was like, okay, we have to go every weekend, or every Sunday. But then, after my parents did split up, and then after that, we kind of stopped going to church. I think maybe they were embarrassed or something like that. I'm going a little bit personal here, but hey, that's life.
Keeping it real.
A lot of people come from families that aren't together anymore, but a lot of them are still together as well, which is awesome. Sorry, off the topic. Back on the topic, I grew up there, and even after we stopped going to church, I still kind of had an inclination that there's something bigger than me out there, and Star Wars growing up had a big impact on me, and I always thought that I wanted to be a Jedi.
That's so funny.
And I also thought the Force is real, there must be something bigger out there, like the Force that, surrounds us and binds the galaxy together. And I kind of thought, there must be more to it than that. And years went by, and I went to a college where before university, I just did a creative arts program, studying painting and drawing and film and things like that. And I had to take an English class, and once my English teacher was very inspiring because she taught us how to think outside the box a little bit and introduced us to other ways of knowing and getting knowledge through other senses, like subtle senses and telepathy and auras and cool kind of alternative ways of thinking. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of things that we don't really know that happen on the subtle platform. And so I got interested in meditation and kind of, different alternative ways of being, I guess, a little bit. And so then after that, I went to university, and I got interested in Buddhism a little bit and meditation. And I started a little bit of a practice at a local temple in Montreal, and I really enjoyed it. It was very peaceful, it kind of helped me calm me down, but it didn't really bring me like that happiness that we're all looking for. So after my university degree, I finished in film animation, and so I had a Bachelor of Fine Arts. And so, but it wasn't satisfying, and I knew that I didn't want to start working 9 to 5, like at it for a big corporation that would make films or whatever. I was more of an artist type, and I was also into yoga a little bit. And so I decided to go travel and to find myself a little bit, because I knew that the meaning of life is not about making money and about, just paying the mortgage and having a dog and the kids. And blah, blah. I was 25 when I left, and I got inspired to come here, actually, to New Zealand, and I wanted to go to Australia also. because I had met this girl who was also on a bit of a journey, and we traveled together a little bit across Canada in 2001, and we're still in contact actually. And she's into the kirtan scene as well, and she's not a devotee like a Hare Krishna devotee, but she's always been like an inspiration to me because she was she basically inspired me to come here. But she was from Auckland originally, and from New Zealand, and so I always thought one day I'll go to your country, and then it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was the inspiration to come over here.
Yeah. And then so I traveled, and I bumped into devotees along the way. So every time I'd meet a devotee, I'd be like, "Hey, it's those guys again," and something told me, go speak to them. I remember seeing Hriman Krishna on the streets in Auckland when I had just arrived, and thinking, he looks like a really cool monk. But I never went to speak to him because he's Filipino, so he kind of looked Buddhist or something. And
around about when was that? What year was that?
That was in 2005.
Okay.
So I arrived in New Zealand in 2004, actually. But in 2005, I really met. I actually met my future husband on the street. My future, I mean my husband right now.
Husband, yeah.
Yeah,
who was then your future husband,
right? When I met him in January 2005, he had just arrived in the country himself, and he was out on books, distributing some books, and I happily took a Science of Self-Realization and gave him a good donation because I thought, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I was on my way to the South Island of New Zealand to go travel. And when I came back up a couple of months later, maybe that was in May, so a few months had passed, I had kept the book, but I hadn't read it yet. But I had made a commitment to myself that I was going to stop just thinking about being spiritual, and I was going to start doing something about it and start hanging out with like-minded people. And that's when I got Om tattooed on my foot. Now,
really?
Yeah. No, I had no idea at the time that Om should not be on a lower part of the body. I had no idea, but I just knew
That's
that
so funny.
I wanted to see it. So I thought, if I put it on my foot, I'll be able to see it, and I can still cover it up if I don't want anybody to see it, But it's in the pipeline. I'm actually going to try to cover it up because I know it's not the best. But you can edit that out, by the way.
Oh no, that was classic. That's so funny.
Okay. Apart from that, so that was in May, and then I bumped into another devotee whom you know well, Krishna dudes, Nanda Gopa.
Oh really? Wow.
He was he was on the streets also. Yeah, I met Nanda Gopa, and he gave me a flyer. He tried to sell me another book, but at that time I just thought I'll stick with my first book, which I haven't read yet. But I was interested in the loft, so I went to the loft, and I had a great evening doing yoga and the meal, and I was so impressed by the food at the loft. I was like, wow, this is the most amazing meal. And I had actually been vegetarian, kind of a part-time, not so strict vegetarian, but it kind of gave me the impetus to fully dive into the nectar of vegetarianism, but which I didn't really know is prasadam at that time. But after speaking to the yoga teacher, Dina Dayala, Devi Dasi, she was there teaching, and I sat down with her for dinner, and she totally awesomely inspired me to go to Wellington, to the center in Wellington, because I told her Auckland's another big city. I don't want to stay in Auckland. I didn't come to New Zealand just to be in another city, which is all pretty similar, those cities. And so I thought Wellington's got a bit of a character, and it sounds like a cool place to settle for the winter, because by that time it was mid-May or something. It was starting to get a bit colder. So I listened to her. Something inside of me said, no, listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. And you can finally be a little bit more spiritual and, hang out with like-minded people. So as soon as I think I hitchhiked a ride down to Wellington. I also had been in a bit of a relationship with a Kiwi guy, which that ended. It wasn't really a serious relationship, but I kind of cut off that tie to go start fresh in Wellington. And as soon as I arrived, I kind of needed a job because I was running low on funds. But after I found a job, I straight went to the Gora Yoga at the time, which is now Bhakti Lounge in Wellington. And I had such a great experience and met some wonderful people, made some friendships right from the beginning. And I got introduced to the manager, who was at the time Vishnu Maya, and she helped me just get myself together and started reading Bhagavad Gita, started chanting. And within a short time, I moved into the ashram, and the rest is history, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, I had to go back home after a couple of months because my visa was expiring. But I was so determined that I had found my meaning for my life after coming to Krishna consciousness. I was really convinced. I was 26 by then, so I was like, okay, I've tasted everything that's available out there. I'm ready to take a leap and take a jump into something fresh and enlivening, and I felt very inspired by it all. And so I came back.
Yeah, cool. And then after you came back, like, what did you do for? Obviously, you got married at some stage, and you've got your little balai now.
Yeah, he's 2.5 now, my little guy.
Yeah.
I decided to take some time off of relationships in the beginning just to help myself to just get to know about Krishna and, get more settled in my Krishna consciousness because, I just knew I wasn't ready for a long-term commitment just yet. So I took a couple of years, and because I couldn't stay in New Zealand, eternally, I just had a visitor visa. So I ended up in Melbourne at the temple there, and I absolutely loved my experience living at the Melbourne temple, and I stayed there for 9 months. And after that, I came back to New Zealand, and then I was kind of ready to settle down. Yeah. And so I was introduced to Vajrayana again for a second time. And he was available. I was available. And it worked out well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, the thought that comes to my mind is that life is a little bit different, like when you're single, like living in an ashram, and then compared to when you get married, especially once you start to have kids, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking, like, what was the impetus for you to, create this journal that you've got? And I'm curious to hear about your experience. Like I was saying, when you were living in the ashram as a single person compared to now when you've got a child, and how that might connect with the journal that you've created.
Sure. Well, because basically, even before I was a devotee, I used to use journals just to kind of gather my thoughts and write down my priorities for the day and things like that. But the journals I found out there, or diaries, I found that they were kind of just bland and not really inspirational. And back in 2015, I think it was, when I was pregnant with my son, I got a journal that was a gratitude diary. And I really loved it because it had some inspirational quotes in there and a little space for every day you could write down something you're grateful for. And I really enjoyed using it, and I felt inspired. But at the same time, I was like, I wish there was something for devotees like this. And I wish I could be able to log down like my japa and what I'm reading at the moment and exercise. And I was like looking out there just for, regular journals or diaries out there, but nothing was quite like that. So I decided, well, I'll use my creative skills and I'll start my own. So that was back in 2016. So basically I had this dream for a long time to like kind of create something cool for devotees. And then I kept on pushing it, like, maybe next year I'll do it, or maybe in, in the future. But then I realized if I keep thinking like that, like one day, well, I'll be dead by the time I actually, sit down and do it. I've got to do it now. So in December 2016, I sat down with a friend of mine and I was like, look, I've got this project on my mind. Should I do it? And she's like, yeah, go for it. Go for it. And so just by talking about it, I decided to make it happen. So that was January 1st, 2016. Wow. And then mid-December, I had a whole manuscript.
December the 1st, you mean?
Yeah, December the 1st, I was ready. I basically, within 2 weeks, I wrote down a whole layout for a book. And
wow, that's amazing.
and I handed it in at the local printers, and I got 50 copies printed. And then I just sold them to my friends around. And at the very end of the year, we usually have like a festival called the Recharge Festival for devotees. And so they easily just went out the door, and I sold them all by January 1st. And
wow.
I was like, hey, I did it. And I was able to use that the whole year, and I felt as inspired. And then for last year, for this year anyway, the Rise Up, I kind of made it a lot better because I spent more time. I spent about 2 months on it, just and to create something even better. Because the first version was more of a trial. It had a lot of flaws. It wasn't quite laid out the way I really wanted it to be laid out, but it was kind of a rough version that I just quickly got out the door. And this one here, which maybe we could post a picture.
Yeah, for sure. On the I'm going to set up a page. It's going to be successfulvaishnavas.com/rise up. Yeah. And we'll have a picture of the journal so people can see what it looks like on the outside and on the inside, because it's beautifully laid out. And the cover picture is really awesome too. Did you paint that yourself?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I thought, well, I studied fine arts. I might as well use a little bit of my knowledge that I have about painting. And I had a lot of fun, actually. I just really enjoyed doing that. Yeah.
It's quite different from the one that you did the first year. Like the design is quite different. There's some elements that are the same, but it'll be interesting. Hopefully we can get a picture of the old one as well, and then we can put them side by side. See the progression. It's cool.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's for sure. I really enjoyed this year as well. I put a lot more time into it, but I'm really happy with the results, and I've had a lot of feedback, like positive feedback already, from even senior Vaishnavas, one of whom is Vimala Mataji, who has just told me recently how she's just been really, inspired, and she's been able to accomplish a lot more things because of her Rise Up journal, and I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy because it's helping others, because originally I just thought, I'll just make it for me. I wasn't thinking of like a business idea, but somehow it's slowly growing, and we'll see where it goes for the future.
I mean, have you got any ideas, sort of expanding beyond just the book itself?
Well, a dream of mine would be to maybe incorporate it in like a kind of life coaching program to help either devotees with their own kind of life, material and spiritual life. And so I'm planning to do a training course in the next year to be trained as a life coach. And then the journal could be used as a tool to be able to incorporate, regulating your habits, incorporating a bit of gratitude and so on.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great, because you've got this book here, and what happens a lot of times is people get a book and they don't always use it to its full extent. So if you can have some sort of coaching that goes along with it, that kind of connects people, reminds them about it, and keeps them using it, it makes it even more powerful. And I've noticed at the front that you've already included a few sort of organizational tips, or I'm not sure what else you would say, but some sort of advice on how to take advantage of this book and some general ideas. So
yes,
I'm just having a quick look through it at the moment, and here it's mentioning just about japa and reading, that there's different elements that all devotees look to develop, and you've just given some advice about how you can use this book, specifically in those areas.
Yes.
And also, I mean, it's an amazing thing. We were working on this together a little bit, and it's amazing. Like the one I'm looking at is called the Down Under edition, and you've actually put the Codicy dates for Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji in it. So, when someone buys the book, they don't have to add the Codicy dates, but they're already included in the book. Which is
the whole Vaishnav calendar for our location is accurate for Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji as well. And then I've got 4 editions basically. So I've got the North American edition, which probably also includes South America, but I just thought I'll keep it simple, the North American version. And then there's the European edition, or it's called the Extended European edition, because it's not just Europe, it's also the UK and all the way to South Africa and Russia as well. So there's all the Codicy dates, all the Vaishnav calendar times and dates for those countries, and then there's the Indian edition as well.
Wow, that's powerful. So that must have been quite a lot of work. I'm just amazed how much you can accomplish in a short time. You said that you started this book the first time, and in 2 weeks you published it. I've helped, for example, Joshua and Vimala, they've got their relationship rescue remedy book.
Yeah, I'm reading it at the moment.
It took us months, of probably more than a year, just to publish that book, And for you to do it in this time, of course, it's a different type of book, but still, just looking at the time and effort you've put in, I'm amazed how much you've been able to do in such a short time.
Somehow I would do it when I had a little bit of time, or after Balai would go to sleep, I would take an hour. So it was a bit of a marathon. Definitely put more energy into that project than anything else. And my sadhana went down a little bit, but I felt if I can just give it a bit of a push, then after that my sadhana will improve because of the book and all. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a good testament to your process and your book, that you're able to achieve something like this in such a short space of time. You've obviously got something going right there.
Thank you.
And so, if you can coach other devotees and, some of the things that that'll be a really great service to so many devotees.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, one thing I just wanted to bring out as well is, looking in this book, you've talked about your portable japamala. That's quite a unique concept. I thought, could you just tell us a bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just thought, let's add a bit of artwork at the back, and why not put a japa beads, and why not 108? So wherever you are, if you have your book, you might as well, you can chant on the beads. It's more of a decorative thing. But at the same time, sometimes, we forget our bead bag and we don't, some people don't like to use clickers, or some people they do. But if the batteries are dead or whatever and you're in trouble and you need to chant, well, at least if you've got your book, you rise up, you can chant anywhere you go.
So you just put your finger on the bead and then, or your thumb, whatever, and just move along each time?
Yeah, just follow around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, also, I've noticed, just to give people a bit of an idea about this book, that on every page you've got quotes, and it's not just quotes from Prabhupada, although there's quite a few quotes from Prabhupada, but also quotes of. You tell us, who are some of the sort of people that are quoted in here. It's quite interesting.
I get quite inspired by Mahatma Prabhu, who's based in Florida, but he travels a lot. Mahatma Das. He's got a lot of amazing quotes, as well as Radhanath Maharaj and Shivaram Swami, and I tried to pick as many, but at the same time I just had a limited amount of time to research quotes to add in the book, and there's a few quotes actually from non-devotees, but they're like Saint Francis of Assisi. So he's I believe a Catholic monk who was a vegetarian, and he's got a few quotes in the book. Let me find one, I think.
I think I saw one not too long. It's near the front, if I remember.
I think there's about 2 or 3 quotes of his in here.
I can see quotes from Bhakti Tirtha Swami as well, to do with community building, and it's quite a diverse collection of quotes, which is quite nice, because it just gives each page it doesn't blur away. It's always something new. So, you actually read it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just gives you something to think about each day.
Yeah. It's just something to keep ourselves motivated and inspired in what we're doing. And, yeah.
Yeah, quite some Bhakti Vinod Thakur. There's all kinds of interesting things in here. Yeah, so, thanks for telling us, about the book, your journal, and, how you came across this and, some of your plans.
Yeah.
As far as the journal, like, I imagine it's gone so well this year. I guess we're looking to promote it again at the end of the year and create next model, 2019 version.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
People can be listening to this interview at any time. It could be a few years in the future. So, we're talking about the 2018 edition right now, but when they listen to it, it could be the 2023 version,
Yeah, that's true.
But in any case, they can always go to successfulvaishnavas.com/rise up, and we'll just keep the information updated as the new books come out.
Sure.
And I'll also let everyone know that's on the email list, for this podcast, when the new edition comes out, that they can get the links to buy it and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this book, the Rise Up Journal is available on Amazon, and there's 4 different versions, so you can pick. It's not too late to get one. There's still time. There's still 8 months and a bit.
Still 3 full quarters left.
Yeah. So why not try it out? At the same time, I have actually some copies right here in New Zealand. So if you live locally or Australia, I can happily send you a copy, and I'll just charge for the shipping, and that's it. So a free copy. I'm happy to give away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, just before we sign off, I just wanted to ask you, just occurred to me now, like, you've had this project, and there must have been challenges along the way. Like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in trying to complete a project like this?
I guess time, busy mum of a toddler. And also just maybe a little concerned with what other people might think, or my husband's always trying to keep me on the target of reading and hearing and my own Krishna consciousness. So at first I was afraid that he'd think that I'm going off course, and now he appreciates my work, and he's got his own copy. But in the beginning, I think I was a bit scared of, oh no, what is he going to think? And and I actually did it, the first version ever that I did it behind his back, so he had no idea I was doing it, because I was so afraid. I was like, oh, maybe he won't really want me to do this, and but in the end, I surprised him, and he was like, wow, you've done all this, and he was pleasantly surprised. So yeah,
interesting, isn't it?
So that was the biggest challenge, I think.
I mean, I was also noticing, like, when I was working with you at some stages, there's quite a lot of decisions to make when you do things like this, aren't there? Like, oh, should I do it this way or that way? And that can also be quite a challenge. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, and where to print it. Things like that, for sure. Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add, about the book that I might not have asked you about, or, any
not
other
really.
points?
I forgot to mention about goal setting and setting goals. But I guess, one of the features of the Rise Up Journal is that you can set some goals for the month. So every month you can set like a few. There's quite a few bubbles on the page where you can fill it out. Simple goals. It doesn't have to be a big goal. Just like, I don't know what it is, like whatever. Let's say tidy my cupboard.
Right.
So then the next page, you can write down your goals and separate it into tasks, so action points.
Oh, cool.
And then give yourself some deadlines. So then the goal becomes really achievable, and you can see it.
So like a goal is kind of like the outcome that you want at the end, and then the tasks are the sort of small things that you need to do on the way in order to get to the final goal, kind of thing.
Yeah. Action point, like steps. Steps to achieve the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more in this book about, how to use it and things. It's hard to express through a podcast, but like you mentioned before, the idea of doing some coaching, that'll be such a really helpful thing, that will help people to get the maximum out of the book. So I'm looking forward to that.
No problem.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll, as I mentioned, we'll put a page up on the podcast. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. Like this Successful Vaishnavas podcast has been like dormant for years, actually. And
wow.
And so it seems appropriate that our first episode after, starting the podcast again would be Rise Up. It's like, come back out of your sleep, Jeev Jago.
Yeah, that's right. No, wonderful. I'm quite happy to be a part of this project of yours, Krishna, and rise up, everyone.
Thanks a lot, and I look forward to hearing more feedback about the book, and also seeing what your 2019 edition will be like. Because this one's really awesome, and I just know that you've been improving it all the time, so it's really great.
Cool. And the 2019 version will be available way before January 1st. So, and I'm going to have a proper website as well.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Cool. Yeah, we'll keep everything updated on the page, successfulvaishnavas.com/rise up.
Yes.
And with that, all the best, and have a good time with your little balai today.
Thank you very much.
And thanks a lot for providing this amazing service for the devotees and helping us to get organized and keep our focus on Krishna.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Just as we ended the interview, Gitavali and myself, we started to discuss a little bit further, and I thought it would be interesting for you to hear that part of the conversation. Just gives a little bit more insight about how to get things done. So here we are. Here it is. Cool.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
thanks a lot for doing that. It's great to feel like for myself, I feel like I'm getting the momentum back again towards actually doing my project. Like you said, you think about things all the time, but you have to do it sometimes. So.
Yeah, or else it just stays in your mind and you don't get anything done.
Yeah, and especially like with when you have a real hard deadline, I think this is probably something that would have inspired you too, because you know that it's a journal and it starts on the 1st of January, and you had the idea on the 1st of December, which freaks me out. But anyway, within 2 weeks you did it because I have to do it before the end of the year because that's when it has to be done by, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking like, okay, well, this journal, 1/4 of the year's gone by already, which is okay. It's still got 2/3 of it. I mean, 3/4 of it. My math's not good, but you know what I mean. 3/4 of the year still to go, so there's heaps of value in it still. And I'm going to the Sacred Sounds Festival in a couple of weeks, so I'm thinking that if I can get this podcast out before I go there, it'll make it a lot easier to distribute the book, because people will probably come to me and say, "Oh, I heard you." Well, I hope so. They'll say, "Hey, I heard the podcast and I heard about that journal. I'm keen to get one." So
there will be some. There's at least 20 books going next door to Australia to the Sacred Sound Festival. So at least 20 and hopefully more. I'm just gonna see what I can manage. To transfer over.
Yeah. So that's giving me a bit of impetus. Like a bit of a deadline. Okay, well, I've got to get this up at least by then.
Yeah.
And then we can get the ball rolling again. So thanks for giving me a bit of incentive that way.
You can do it.
Thanks.
Yeah, just use that goal setting sheet and it'll help.
Yeah, that's true, right? Just break it down into the steps and...
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll sign off here, and I'll let you know once it's posted and everything. You can go and check out the page and see that it looks all good, and
sure,
get it out there, and hopefully that'll inspire a bit of interest.
Thanks for listening. To find out more, go to successfulvaishnavas.com.
Whatever little service that anyone can do for Krishna is to be appreciated and celebrated.
Just give this life to Krishna.
We know that they have much more potential than they are presently using.
I went to a place of relishing the activity and letting go of the result completely.
You just associate with pure devotees. Then you shall be able to cross over the ocean of nescience.